You gotta accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, and don't mess with Mr. In-Between. You gotta spread joy up to the maximum, bring gloom down to the minimum, have faith or pandemonium's liable to walk upon the scene. Accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative, and latch on to the affirmative, and don't mess with Mr. In-Between.
My name's Adam, and I've spent the last 20 years of my career leading, growing, and building companies and teams for lasting impact. It would be my honor to come alongside you and help you to do the same thing. Whether it's in the corporate world, a brand new small business startup, or a 100-year-old family business, I've seen it and I've led it. Starting with defining your purpose beyond profit, we unlock strategies across every part of your business so that we can arrive at what I call asymmetric endurance, allowing you to get your time back while the business continues to grow, succeed, and achieve its true purpose. If you're ready to build an unbreakable business, let's talk. Book 15 minutes with me today at kingdommindsetstrategies.com.
3, 2, 1. Thank you for being here. This is the Miracles Online podcast, and this is our favorite time of the day because I get to be with my bear. Ooh. I'm Jeff, your host, and this is...
I'm Kat.
And we're affectionately known as the Bears. The Bears. So today we have a fun episode, and it probably hits home with a lot of us. I know it did with me. And this whole thing started with, I remember as a kid watching the Brady Bunch, in which this is dating with children and then blending hearts and homes.
Welcome to episode 30.
Yeah. So we're very fortunate, and thank you so much for your support and continued support. So like and subscribe, leave us a comment. You know, we often read our comments and letters on the podcast, as you well know. But today, the reason why I really like this about dating with children is that it's something that's different than when you're dating young. So this episode probably plays a little bit more to people in their 30s and up at this point with single parent dating.
Could be 20s too.
Well, yeah, I guess so, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 19 and I have a 3-year-old.
Well, yeah. I wasn't quite 20 when I had Tanya. So
no, I dated single girls. I remember, and you know, when I was 20, that had a child.
Yep, and there's not the stigma I think that there was, you know, back in the day. Like, oh my gosh, you know, who's going to want the baggage? Who's going to want me with children? But what we're going to kind of dive in today is the beauty, you know, the challenges, because obviously there's challenges, right?
And, there's definitely challenges.
And we're going to share some tips that you may or may not have thought of to help make that as smooth as possible in that union. So some of the common challenges of blended families, number one is divided loyalties, right?
Sure.
So the children may feel protective.
Yep.
I know, you know, that's a prominent feeling. They may feel protective of their biological parent and resistant to someone new.
Yeah, you can't
because
tell
they're outside their, you know, circle.
That's right. That's right. It's always that. Well, you have the learning curve too. So
different parenting styles. Yeah. Exactly. That's a point number 2 here that I've jotted down is different parenting styles. So while you're getting to know each other, whether you're just in the dating aspect of it, you know, building on something maybe possibly permanent, or you've already tied the knot and you're married, of course you're getting to know each other and navigating the waters of a new relationship. But now you know, you've got discipline, you've got structure, you've got routines that may clash with two different households. And, unlike our union, Jeff,
Mm-hmm.
there are couples who come like the Brady Bunch,
Yeah.
and they're blended. So you've got, double whammy there in terms of blending.
Well, I wouldn't call it whammy. Whammy seems to be a negative thing.
A double,
But let me ask,
double opportunity for love, but a double in all these issues in terms
more
of
things to do, right?
More things to think about: structure,
sure.
Discipline, routines, parenting style.
Right. So let me ask you this: I know you when you were dating before you met me, you dated, you went on dates with guys with kids, and you told me, that that didn't really concern that much. So you didn't really go into the dating pool thinking, oh, gee, do I want to add more kids to my family, or was that even a concern, or was that a thought?
I don't think so much, as much, because typically, well, I take that back. There was an occasion where it was a concern where the guy had custody of the kids. That was more of a concern. But typically, at least
why would that be
back then, the mother had custody, so it was just a visitation. So not as well, because I'd already had and raised my children, just as I told you when we got together. I was having no more children. I had 3, and that was it. So that wasn't something that in that space and time of my journey in my life that I wanted to now raise someone else who had children who were still at home, because I had one left that was, just about to fly the nest, but 2 were already out. So it really depends, I think, on where you are in terms of your journey, and have you already raised kids, or if, in the Brady Bunch, obviously they were all
very young.
Yeah. Right. So that was a beautiful, blending.
Well, it was.
Of course,
TV.
It was Hollywood. Yes, of course, it was Hollywood.
Right.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure I've seen families, and I'm sure you've seen families that kids are between the toddler type of age all the way to junior high school.
Right.
And that's the kind of blend. That's what we're talking about. How challenging would that be for someone to date? Especially if I have a son that I've raised, and all of a sudden I'm going into a house with 3 girls. Would that be a concern? Or would that be a blessing? Because now you got a balance of, having the woman's touch in the home.
Yeah. And again, the dynamics are both parents on both sides still in the picture. In that case, those children don't need a new parent. They don't need to call you daddy one or daddy, mommy one. They already have a mom and dad. You're just adding to that love and that nurturing, having the blended family. And again, there's so many dynamics to that. Of course, in our case and in other cases where there's a parent that's not in the picture, Jeff was a welcome addition to the family, giving a parental male perspective to a single mom who had an absent father to a teenage boy. So it was, I've often told you, it was a good fit. You came at the perfect time because, my son was acting out, and I made the mistake of that I think a lot of single moms often do, is trying to be a friend. My son's friend. Well, you can't be your kid's friend. You have to be their parent.
Yeah, I think what it was,
friendly, but not their friend.
It was definitely because you two were having the house yourself, and he was growing past the tween age, and at that point he started to become independent, and you felt that it was better for the relationship not to be, the dominant, heavy-handed parent, but to say, hey, I understand you're growing up. And we're going to be, a little bit more lenient and nice to you. Because one of the things, the reason why I brought this,
nice to you. Yeah. Well, the thing was, I was afraid. Like, you came and you made him quit his hockey team.
Yeah. Well, there was before we get all that,
okay.
The thing that came to my mind when we were talking in the get to know you stage and so forth is that you had him painted in sense of the light of very independent, very smart kid, and you were going to put a refrigerator in his room. And I kind of thought to myself, like, man, I understand about the parents of understanding kids becoming independent and so forth, but when you're starting to let them to live like an adult in their own apartment at that age, I don't think that's
I
healthy.
just thought it was kind of a cool thing. You have a beverage, cooler in his room.
Yeah.
But did we ever do that?
No. I came in and went, no, we're not
Stepdad
doing
said
that.
no.
Because you know what? You don't want a kid to just live in their room. That's number one. I've never.
That's true. But I'll tell you, at that age, I think every teenager goes through that. They're a lot in their head. They're dreaming about girls or boys or music and fantasizing, etc. And they want their quiet space time. I get that.
Right. Yeah. But that doesn't need a refrigerator in their house, in their room.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we didn't get a refrigerator, right?
No, but he survived. So
yeah, he survived.
That was good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in regards to, understanding the dynamics when you're dating someone with children, how it plays to your relationship with the significant other. And are you accepting to it? That to me is a key, because we talked about it in the very early on. Tell me about your, the son that's still in the house, and what kind of kid is he, and I found out from all the things that this was going to be, a workable situation for me, because I'm not walking into a total disaster. Because it would have been, definitely a red flag. It was, there's been problems because, the kid's been thrown out of school several times, and we had to go to juvie hall, and then ultimately he's got a record. If I have that situation, and then I have to really self-evaluate, hey, am I up to this task? Because if I marry this woman, I'm going to have to inherit the responsibility dealing with some kid that's going in and out of the system. Because of what reason?
Now, if there had been a father figure, local, which he was out of this country, I believe, for more than 2 years, then it's, then the responsibility, of course, they're not looking for another parent, just reinforcement and love, etc. But definitely that's a dynamic that when you're getting fresh new into a relationship, that you want to wrap your arms around. Are you up to that, the current situation?
Right. In our family, it became that there was 3 of us that we needed to learn about each other's habits, each other's behaviors, each other's personalities and dynamics. And that took a little bit longer than, let's say, if you were just dating one-on-one. Because once you got married into this, of course, now it isn't just like, well, I don't need this, let's just throw the kid away. You can't do that. And you can't solve problems by ignoring problems in this type of situation.
And it's natural to feel like when you come together, that short time we went to a counselor, like, the circle has been built, and coming in, it's natural for you to feel somewhat like an outsider as a new partner. You can feel like a guest in a family that already existed long before you, of course.
Right. And that took a little time.
Sure.
And you know what's even interesting? It kept on building for the next 2 to 3 years. It wasn't like, okay, we went to a counseling session 6 months later, it seems like everything's smooth sailing, everybody respected everybody. No, it still was a lot of peaks and valleys. There were still a lot of things that went on that we would say that was disrespectful, that we had to straighten the ship out and go, you can't behave this way.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things I would say to the fellas out there, the guys, you sometimes then have to take a look at this dynamic of the relationship when you have a child that you're working into this situation, that if the child only sees this as mom and was doing things that you felt is disrespectful, of course, you then have to make a decision. Am I going to interfere into the relationship, or I'm going to do something about protecting my wife?
And he knew, and just instinctively, which was amazing because he's never raised children of his own. He knew instinctively where to pick up that slack.
But I will say that I was around children because of coaching sports.
That's right.
And teaching music.
That's right.
So I have a lot of experience probably more so than most, because I had to deal with kids between the age of 5 to 13, 16, and they're all different. Yeah. So that helped me quite a bit.
Another part of the dynamic is unrealistic timelines. So adults may fall in love fast, as we did. Okay. But there's a lag time because the kids need time to adjust emotionally and practically. And that was the case with us, because we fell in love rather quickly.
Hmm.
And so it was like, what? You're getting married to who? He's going to be my new dad. What? So, kids need that time, realistically, to embrace that.
And out of the relationship, I never at any time to any of the kids to say, hey, I'm coming in and I should be addressed as stepdad.
Oh, no.
I never gave anybody the indication that I needed to be
people call
seen.
stepdad?
Well, do they do introduction so forth? Yeah, this is so-and-so. This is my stepdad.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, no, it was Jeff. Yeah.
But I never came in and says, okay, now I'm the man of the house. Therefore, anybody comes in needs to understand the pecking order, and I should be addressed with this title. I never went with that. I came in with this. I'm marrying this lovely woman, and you guys are her children. I get that. So you guys proceed to be her children. Of course, I get yelled at. It's like, you need to take some ownership. You're the stepfather. Okay, I'll do that too.
Well, I had to nudge you sometimes but it was a gentle nudge. But, the bottom line is in blended families, it's not a division of love. It's a multiplication. And we need to remind children and partners alike that, love grows in this dynamic. It doesn't replace it. Nobody's being replaced. It's just being multiplied.
Yeah.
And that was the case. It really was. There was added love.
Well, we had no barometer. That's why we didn't know it. We didn't know how long it would take. We didn't know what kind of direction it would go. So we followed our hearts. We followed our training, basically, how we conditioned ourselves to get out of what dumps we were in personally.
Sure.
So therefore, we can then show the children the level of love and also how to get out of your certain situations that if you didn't feel loved or you didn't care or you didn't think somebody cared about you, how do you deal with these emotions? How do you deal with these type of voids? So by us having to already go through it ourselves really helped.
Absolutely. And it's such a good point that you make, Jeff, about we didn't put unrealistic timelines on that, on the blended, dynamics, because again, it does take longer for a child. The time, you take the time. Yeah. You go forth with truth and tenderness that glues the family, blended family together. And I think if you go with that intention and that heart,
it plays out.
It's a win.
Yeah,
it's a winner.
Everything will come in the path.
More love for everybody
without any kind of so-called constriction. It will flow, and that's what we're looking for. Really, is how do you not force something into something that's not ready, or force a round peg into a square hole.
Absolutely. Let the kids go at their own pace. Yeah. That's another point I was going to bring up, Jeff. Let them build the trust at their own pace, because they're going to be varying ages, varying personalities, unique individuals. So let them go at their own pace. Don't try to force bonding experiences. That's right. Because that never works.
Yeah. Like for instance, the forcing, I didn't force it, but I thought, hey, we should have a family forum. Because I thought the Huxtables was doing that, and that was something.
That's right, popular. A family forum.
And then that family forum never happened. Every time we scheduled one, he'll go out, and you just like, goodbye.
Well, and I'm like, he had a busy schedule. But we did have some family meetings.
We had family meetings, but it was out of necessity, opposed to a scheduled week and touch and feel and understand what's all going on with your life. And because I really thought that from a theoretic point of view, that if a family sat around every week and meet and carve out time and talk about what's all going on that week and what's you need help with and things like that, that would make the family flow easier. Of course, this is theoretic because I've never been around this environment. I just know from ideas of being on a sports team, being in a band.
And then watching TV. The
Huxtables, family forum, come on now, children, sit down. I thought that was a great idea.
But you're not far off, Jeff, and it's actually one of the last points I'm going to make here.
Really now?
Second to the last is create shared forums. I'm not going to call it rituals, shared forums. So, start your own traditions, whether it's a family forum, if that doesn't work with your
Right.
schedules, do a Sunday breakfast, do family walks, do a gratitude jar, something, that
Even game night.
even game night. Yes. Which we've implemented, even game night.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the last point, I think it'll be the last point that I want to make, is speak kindly of ex-partners around your children.
Majorly
Now,
huge.
I had to learn this because I went through a pretty tumultuous time with my ex. I won't go into the details of it, but
we want to hear.
Basically, he was poking Mama Bear in a very legalistic way. You don't poke Mama Bear. So I was, admittedly in a very emotional, vulnerable state.
Sure.
And I did succumb to, that triangulation of talking bad about his father.
Yeah, and that's of course not
right.
Not
And
nice,
it
not
took,
good.
that was actually the one thing I think that, speaking to that counselor, that was a light bulb for me, that when you speak badly about your ex in front of your children, the psychological message is, oh, well, I love my dad, but if my dad's a blankety blank, then I must be a blankety blank.
Sure.
And I'm no good.
Right.
That's the subliminal unspoken message. And that was just like, whoa, that was a light bulb. So I learned to change my thinking, change my words. I did not ignore. I would not let things slip by.
Right.
I'll give you an example. There was a situation where my ex was not paying child support, which was the norm. But on his visitation, because I did not negate the visitation, because that would have been harmful to the kids, he would take them to Disneyland trips, different things, the proverbial Disneyland dad. And I remember this one particular time, he chose to take them to some amusement park and not take my son to his baseball game. And, I was livid, but I contained myself. I didn't rant and rave and say how horrible he was. I said, that was wrong what your father did. You have a responsibility to your teammates and your coach to play. And that was wrong of him to take you to an amusement park instead of that. So that's how I chose to handle it. And I felt good about that, because I wouldn't have felt good to just go, oh yeah, that's great. You have fun. That's great. Oh, you didn't go to the game. Oh, no big deal. Because it's still my responsibility to instill what I believe are values and principles to my kids. And, you do have less control when you're split up and your ex is taking your kids and making decisions that maybe you wouldn't have made. So, but don't talk bad, because it definitely is not good for your kids.
No, I like to bring up a point about dating with children, especially young children. In today's world, I would say that is instrumental, and it's very important. If you are on the market ready to look for your marriage type of relationship and you have kids, is background check. You need to find out if there's any kind of criminal history, especially with sexual abuse in any of that direction, because we are now seeing more and more evidence of those things around our world. And we cannot jeopardize our children with
it's too bad we have to talk about dark things like that, but we do have to. And especially if you're a single parent, a single mom particularly, but a single parent, you definitely want to protect let's say this. You're in your early 40s. Okay. You just got out of marriage a couple of years ago. You're raising a 13-year-old daughter, and you meet a man that you think is up and bright and is right with you. So you let him in the house, you let him in your heart, and you really don't know anything about this man's history. Then something bad happens, something the worst of the worst would happen. Then what? Then you're going to say, oh, I should have, I could have,
I didn't. You don't want any of those regrets.
And there's plenty of sites out there.
Oh, yeah.
to do that. Some free, some
because ultimately
$20.
what we did is there was a member of the family. We're not going to finger point, but they started dating someone that we just went, where the hell did this come from? So immediately I said, hey, you know what? Do a background check. Pulled it up just to see what kind of records this person had.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
we needed to know. It was spotty. It was, but it wasn't like, oh my God, no way. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But it was bad enough to go, okay, we need to pay attention to this because there's something here. And, you know, I'm glad we did because we always had our eye on the situation. So therefore there wasn't anything that later on would just jump out and you go,
surprises.
Nobody thought about this. Nobody saw this coming.
Right.
Right. So that to me is one of the best thing you could do is protect your child by doing background checks.
Absolutely. And here's one thing I espouse to, especially let's say any kind of dating, but if you're doing online dating, is get to know the person, vet the person, you know, find out their principles, their values, how they act, it's so forth. Don't be eager to share with them your children right out the gate until you feel right. You know, follow your inner knower and you feel right.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first few dates, I wouldn't have them pick you up at that. You meet them somewhere. You can tell them you have kids, but I just wouldn't involve them in your kids, you know, until you've, whatever it takes. If it's 2 dates, if it's 5 dates, if it's a timeline, you have spotty schedules, whatever time that you need to feel comfortable that, okay, I can trust this person. In fact, let me do a background check before I take that next step to actually introduce them, you know, to my children.
Yeah.
I was very, even back, you know, 2.5 decades ago, I was very protective and very rarely did my children ever meet anyone because I didn't want my children to have that, well, mom has, you know, men in and out of here.
Wow.
Mentality.
She dates a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I just wanted to protect them, you know.
Absolutely. You know, from the guy's point of view, I did the same thing. I dated a few ladies and one of them had kids. And, you know, and after a couple of weeks, she was like, you want to meet my kids? And I wasn't really ready because I wasn't ready about her. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So opposed to just being appeasing and to make her, you know, feel, oh, okay. No. And it's like, no, not yet.
Yeah.
And then, you know, probably about a week or so after that, I was like, you know, this isn't going to work.
It's not working. Yeah.
Because we're just not doing the same thing and on the same level.
You're two consenting adults, but don't involve your children until you feel really, you know, sure about that. You don't want, you know, oh, this is Uncle, you know.
Nothing worse than just
Uncle
seeing somebody
Stevie.
who comes into the family and becomes attached and you have a relationship and a year later they're gone. That happened in my life.
Or even less than that.
Yeah, 6 months, 3 months. I mean, you know, everything's great. This is the mom's buddy. I can call him Uncle Dave. And we're going to, you know, baseball games and he buys me new glove. And all of a sudden, this guy's a great singer. I wish mama marry him and he doesn't come around anymore.
Right. Now,
what happened?
Now, what story were you going to share? How did that happen to you?
When I was a kid?
When you were a kid. Yeah.
Oh,
I think you said.
Well, because, you know, again, I was raised by my grandparents. My mom was in and out really very little time at all in the first decade of my life. So when she got remarried, or she got married actually for the first time, and I was already born. So, yeah, I came out of wedlock. That man came to her and lived with us for a very short time. And I didn't understand the dynamics of whatsoever. All I knew is mom was home again. Now there's a dude with her. And, you know, typical kid like me, I had a big crush on my mother because she was gorgeous. And of course you had your first love is your mother, especially when your mother isn't around. So then you have this longing and just fantasy from watching TV with mothers and sons and family and all that. With all this, driving the emotion of, I think I was maybe 6 at the time, that here's a guy, he's a good looking guy. He tried to be nice to me, and I'm starting to like him because he's likable. He's sharing things with me. Then he leaves with my mom and disappears.
And that's when they went back to the U.S.?
Yeah, but again, this is a void that I didn't ask for.
Sure.
So all of a sudden, I'm sitting
now
there
you
going,
got a double.
Yeah,
a double
now
void.
mom's gone again, and that dude is gone.
And she chose the dude, and she left.
Right.
Yeah.
So, from the surface, I'm sure as a kid, you could just go, oh, okay, they're going to, a different place and they're going to start a life. You don't ever think about anything else other than just that surface stuff. But the emotional aspect of that is within the inner self understands much more deeper about the void and about the structure of what you have and what other people have. And then you start questioning, well, why do everybody else have this type of family structure and I don't? And what is the difference for me? Is it because of me?
And unfortunately, today, it's not like it was that many decades ago so many families are split up. All the more that, the person you choose to have a relationship with should be one of the most important, vetting and decisions that you make, because it's going to be so important to you, to your journey. Mm-hmm. If you have children, to your children. Just can't stress how important that is.
Do you have a poem or a letter today?
I have a letter.
Okay. So before we wrap this up with the letter, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was extremely helpful and insightful for everyone. Please like and subscribe and share our podcast. Especially if you're on Rumble, hit that thumbs up. That algorithm is going to give us a lot of props to be able to help us grow and, basically also support us at Yahoo Publishing.
Yahoo Publishing and
Upside Down.
And buy the book.
Buy the book.
As Jeff says, buy the book.
Yeah.
PTB.
Yeah.
It's less than $10, under 100 pages. If you know anyone who's single, divorced, widowed, just looking for love, we like to call this a GPS to online dating.
Yes.
And we're taking it a step further with Miracles Online podcast to go in deeper into relationships, love, commitment, and dating. So Miracles Online.
And also all the stuff we have, just check out the description. We have Substack. We want you to go over there and subscribe that. So you see all the little things that we don't have in this podcast that we add is afterthought to enhance the podcast
and
experience.
Bonuses,
yes.
Et cetera. And we're going to be enriching that. So we're running out of time. Maybe on the next podcast, we'll talk about what is a Substack, because I just learned what it is. So if we want you to sign up for the Substack, we want you to know the WIFM, what's in it for me. And there's going to be some cool things in it for you.
Yeah.
So ready?
So, yep.
Okay.
Give us the letter.
So hi, Kat and Jeff. I'm so glad when I heard you were doing an episode on this. Dating with kids in the mix is a whole different ball game. And honestly, it doesn't get talked about enough. When I first met someone after my divorce, I was hopeful, but also scared. It wasn't just about us clicking. It was about whether our lives, our kids, our pasts could even begin to fit together. There were moments I felt torn, like being a good parent and being a loving partner were somehow in competition with each other. But one thing that helped me was a simple reminder from a friend, quote, "You're not replacing anyone, you're just adding more love." That shifted something in me. We started taking things slower, giving the kids more space, and letting trust grow on its own timeline. It hasn't always been easy, but it's been real and honestly worth it. Thanks for bringing this topic into the light. It matters more than most people realize. Warmly, a hopeful parent. Well, thank you for sharing that, hopeful parent. Hope there's many more hopeful parents out there who are listening to this. And if you just take away one thing from this episode that can help navigate the connection and merging of your families and your kiddos and your relationships, then we've done a good thing, right?
That's right. So thank you again for tuning in, Miracles Online Podcast. And we're going to sign off with our sponsor, Kingdom Mindset Strategies. And until then, next time, we'll see you. Thank you.
Seal with a kiss. Bye.
Well done. You've done something that most people only ever dream about. You've started and kept a business alive, and that's a huge achievement and one you should be proud of. Now, I want to help you make that business unbreakable. My name's Adam, and I've spent the last 20 years of my career leading, growing, and building companies and teams for lasting impact. Whether it's in the corporate world, a brand new small business startup, or a 100-year-old family business, I've seen it and I've led it. And what I've learned is building an unbreakable business often requires similar ingredients: clear financial insights, well-built systems, streamlined growth strategies, and optimized operations. Starting with defining your purpose beyond profit, we unlock strategies across every part of your business so that we can arrive at what I call asymmetric endurance, allowing you to get your time back while the business continues to grow, succeed, and achieve its true purpose. If you're ready to build an unbreakable business, let's talk. Book 15 minutes with me today at kingdommindsetstrategies.com.